Today, we're stepping inside one of the most famous homes in the world, Graceland. But we're not just going to look at furniture and carpets. No, we're going to use these rooms as a mirror to get a better sense of the man who lived there, Elvis Presley. And we're starting right at the front door, in the foyer and the living room. Let's just dive right in with this. It's a really powerful thought from his daughter, Lisa Marie. She said the house still feels alive, that she could always feel his presence. You know, that idea is really the heart of our whole explainer today, how a place, a physical space, can hold on to the spirit of a person long after they're gone. So here's our game plan. First, we'll look at how Graceland became a mirror to the king. Then we'll walk through the foyer, which was like his public stage, and then into the living room, his private world. We're even going to uncover a pretty fascinating obsession of his before we bring it all home for the final curtain call. Okay, so here's the thing you gotta understand about Graceland. It wasn't just some house Elvis bought. It was more like a blank canvas that he got to paint. It started out as a pretty typical kind of conservative Southern mansion, but he completely transformed it into a direct reflection of his personality, his fame, and his entire life story. And wow, this slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? Before Elvis, the house was, subdued. Cream walls, neutral carpet, pretty standard stuff. But almost right away, he started making it his own. The subdued became grand and dramatic. The neutral carpet became plush, with mirrored walls. And then, of course, in 1974, he added those legendary stained glass peacocks. The transformation was just total. So that whole transformation thing, it kicks off the second you walk through the front door, into the foyer. Now, this was not just an entryway. For Elvis, this was a stage. It was the place where he made first impressions, where his friends were welcomed, and ultimately, where the world had to say its final goodbye. His cousin Billy Smith really captured the vibe of this space. It was meant to be grand. It was meant to be impressive. You were supposed to know you were in a superstore's house, but somehow at the same time, it still felt like a home. And that duality, that's the key to understanding both Graceland and Elvis himself. And behind all that grandeur was just a lot of real life. This public stage saw some incredible private moments. He had security cameras, so we always knew who was at the door. It's where he'd practice his karate moves. And it even had a patched-up stain on the ceiling from, a frustrated moment with a gun upstairs. I love this story. It's a first-hand account from his maid, Nancy Rooks. Can you picture it? Elvis Presley in his own foyer, showing off his high kicks, and then bam! A piece of the chandelier just falls to the floor. And the best part? They just left it. It became another part of the house's story. But the foyer's story, it also takes this deeply somber turn. On August 17th, 1977, this exact same space became the site of a massive public viewing. 25,000. That's how many fans filed through here, in total silence, to pay their final respects. The public stage had become a place of national mourning. Okay, so just off that foyer is the living room. And this space, it tells a totally different kind of story. It wasn't just one thing. It changed dramatically as Elvis's life, his relationships, and his career changed. It really shows us two very different eras. You can literally see his life unfolding right here. It starts off as this typical conservative Southern room. Then, in the 60s, Elvis creates what's now called the Blue Era. It was a cool, peaceful family space. But then, 1974 hits and everything changes. It becomes the Red Era, a bold, in-your-face, Vegas-style room. The Blue Era was really the heart of Graceland back in the 60s. I mean, the centerpiece was this enormous, custom-made, 15-foot-long white sofa. This was where the family actually gathered. Elvis, Priscilla, and little Lisa Marie. It was their private sanctuary. Cool, peaceful, and theirs. Then came 1974. And under the influence of his girlfriend at the time, Linda Thompson, the room went through this radical change. The calm blue and white, gone. In its place, bold red couches, red carpet, and those now iconic peacock stained glass dividers. It was pure 70s Vegas glam. But, and this is where the story gets really fascinating, according to people in his inner circle like Larry Geller, this was all Linda's vision. She was the one who wanted that bold, showy Vegas look. And apparently, while Elvis let her do it, the story goes that he secretly wasn't a fan at all. His cousin Billy Smith is even more blunt about it. He just comes right out and says Elvis hated it, called it gaudy. In fact, he disliked it so much that he would actually use the back stairs just so he wouldn't have to walk past it. Can you imagine? The iconic red room that everyone associates with Elvis was a look the man himself couldn't even stand. You know that story about the living room, about a guy who felt like he couldn't even control his own space? It connects to a different, really curious part of his personality, his obsession with law enforcement badges. It might seem totally random, but this collection tells you a lot about the kind of power and authority he really craved. So let's just ask the question straight up. Why on earth would one of the most famous people on the planet, a man who could literally go anywhere and do almost anything, be so fascinated with collecting police badges? What was that about? And his collection was no joke. It was extensive. We're talking local police, sheriffs, even federal agencies. His absolute #1 most prized badge was one he got directly from President Richard Nixon in 1970. And this wasn't just a solo hobby either. He'd give badges to his inner circle, the Memphis Mafia, almost like a symbol of their loyalty and their bond. And this quote from his friend, Jerry Schilling, just nails the why of it all. The badges, to Elvis, represented a kind of power and freedom that even his incredible fame couldn't buy. For him, having those official credentials meant he could be part of another world, a world of authority and access that was completely separate from being a superstar. So, as we wrap up our little tour of these first 2 rooms, what have we really seen? We've seen that the foyer and the living room, they aren't just decorated spaces. They're much more than that. They represent the 2 fundamental sides of the Elvis Presley legend. And this just lays it out perfectly. The foyer, that was the public stage for the showman. It was designed for grand entrances, and it's where the world ultimately said its goodbyes. But the living room, that was the private sanctuary for the family man. That was the place for gospel sing-alongs, for Christmas mornings, and for quiet family time, even as the decor changed all around him. Which brings us right back to where we started, with Lisa Marie's words just kind of echoing in these halls. That feeling that he's still there, especially by the stairs, the very spot that connects the public foyer to the private world upstairs. It's a presence that's built from karate kicks and gospel hymns and thousands of silent goodbyes. Just these 2 rooms alone hold so many stories of triumph and change and contradiction. And we've really only just stepped through the front door. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If these walls could talk, what stories would they tell next?